Joining us now is Kimberly Graham, US Senate candidate in Iowa. Kimberly, welcome to the show. Can you start off by giving us a little bit of an idea of your background going into this race?
Yeah, so for the last 20 years, I've primarily been an attorney for abused kids and for parents in the juvenile courts here in Iowa. And I'm a mom. I come from a family where my dad was one of 15 kids from the Des Moines area here, and he moved out to California to live with an older brother, joined the Marines, got a good union job after the Marine Corps. My mom was a teenage mom, dropped out of high school to have me, went back and got her GED, and also got a good union job. She was a CWA, Communication Workers of America worker all of her career and retired. From that, my parents divorced when I was 13. I've been working since I was 14, put myself through college and law school, and been an attorney for kids, and here we are.
You know, we saw on your campaign website that you said you'd never thought in a million years that you would ever run for any kind of office, but now you're running for Senate, which is quite an office. Tell me about that transition.
Right. So, like a lot of people, I sat there the night of the 2016 elections, and I have to say that we're going to owe a lot of really good people getting into office, to this disaster in most ways that's happened here in our country, because I sat there that night, and before they had even called the race for the current occupant of the Oval Office, I got out my phone and started adding up the states that were left. And when I realized before it had even been called that there was no way that Clinton could win, like a lot of us, I felt physically ill and started crying. And, a lot of times in life, we think something's going to be really bad, disastrous, and then it turns out not to be as bad as we had catastrophized it in our imaginations. In this case, it's actually been far worse than I had feared that night. About a month after that, I saw an advertisement for a women's candidate boot camp at the Iowa State University. The Chapman Catt Center for Women in Politics puts on this boot camp for women that are interested in running for office. Like I mentioned on my website, I never thought in a million years I would run for any office. I went to that boot camp because I, like everybody, was casting around for what can I do? I can't just sit here and let this happen to my country. I have a 20-year-old son, and anybody who's a parent out there will know that you will do anything to save your child or your children, and including running for US Senate. So here I am.
And here you are. And so, take us through some of the core issues in your candidacy.
Right. The top three that we talk about the most often, of course, there are so many and they're all important, but the ones we talk about most with people out and about, we've been to 62 of our 99 counties here in Iowa so far, which is really important. That's how you win Iowa, is you go everywhere, including the so-called red areas, and you talk to everyone that you can. The core issues that we talk about are healthcare, the climate crisis, and children. And I know children's a really broad topic, and it encompasses healthcare and the climate crisis as well. But when I talk about children, I'm specifically talking about things that I have the experience with because of what I've done for the last 20 years. So namely, I've seen how we don't invest in our children in this country. Most European nations spend 2 to 4% of their GDP on programs for children and families. And here in the US, we spend 0.6% of our GDP on programs for children and families specifically. Things like universal childcare, like universal pre-K.
Wow.
I mean, those are just two little tiny examples that would fundamentally change the lives of so many families if we just had those two things.
Wow. That's probably the origin of the sort of classic phrase, the children are 0.6% of our future. Probably, no, I'm kidding. Thank you for walking us through your platform there. So there are multiple Democrats running in this primary. Hypothetically, one of you will be facing Joni Ernst, who's someone we've talked about quite often on this show. What is it about Joni Ernst that you think doesn't line up with Iowa these days?
Let's be, transparent here. This is not just some conspiracy theory nonsense. She was actively recruited from the Iowa State Legislature by the Koch brothers. They saw this attractive, good, nice smile, very, very conservative, right-wing woman in the Iowa legislature, and they recruited her and trained her and put her up as a candidate for US Senate. And she happened upon, or her people happened upon, a really catchy slogan, which we probably all know, even if you don't live in Iowa. Which make them squeal.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's something.
It even became an SNL, skit. So that was her platform, and people want that. People want to get rid of politics as usual, and that was kind of her platform. Was, hey, I'm going to go to Washington and I'm going to make them squeal. I'm going to, get the pork out of Washington. I'm going to get the corruption out of Washington, and a lot of people in Iowa wanted, to elect a woman. A lot of independents, which is fully a third of the voters in Iowa, voted for her. And I've had numerous women come up to me during my run saying, you know what, I voted for her. And she was, to be honest, running on a little bit more moderate of a platform back then. But all these women that are coming up to me saying that are now saying, I will not vote for her again. Yeah. And it's very clear that her intention all along, in my view, was simply to bolster the interests of corporations, particularly also the NRA. The NRA spent $3.1 million on advertisements against her opponent in 2014. She has voted squarely behind the NRA at every single step, including most recently by refusing to authorize the Violence Against Women Act because she didn't want the boyfriend loophole closed.
Jeez.
She just continues to be directly contrary to the interest of Iowans. She's lined up against the president repeatedly in regards to the tariffs, trade wars, in regards to the ethanol waivers, which for those who don't know, Iowa grows a lot of corn. We produce a lot of ethanol. We have a lot of jobs. I want to say about 48,000 jobs in Iowa are directly related to ethanol. It's a big deal in a state of 3 million people to have that many people employed in that industry. And this current administration, has been granting waivers that are supposed to be reserved to small refineries. Yeah. They're granting waivers to refineries like Exxon so that they don't have to buy the ethanol from Iowa and they don't have to blend it into their fossil fuels. Yeah. And it has really harmed Iowans, and so have the trade wars, which have increased farm suicides, increased farmer bankruptcies. Iowa farmers have lost markets that they will never, ever get back. And it's really her support of these policies and laws have really harmed Iowans.
Wow. And Kimberly, where can people find out more about your candidacy?
Yeah, you can go to KimberlyForIowa.com, KimberlyForIowa.com. And we are, I dare say, we're probably the only candidate, I believe, of the 5 of us who, because of my student loan debt, because you're looking at who paid for law school and for college, has a negative net worth. The rest of the people running are lovely people, good people. I respect all of them. They're all pretty well off. And I think that when you've been a struggling single mom, like I have been, I was divorced when my son was about 7, and attorneys for kids don't make a ton of money. And I've got these huge student loan debts, paying my own medical insurance, trying to keep a roof over our head. You have a better idea of what's going on out there, and also representing mostly people in poverty for the last 20 years. I think I have a pretty good idea of what it's going to take to create and make the investments in people in this country that we've got to make. We invest hard in the top 10%, and it's paid off great. It's paid off great for them. Yeah. We need to start investing in everyone else, because this can be, I believe, truly the greatest country on earth, where we take the best care of our citizenry, but we've got to get more regular people into Congress. Okay.
Kimberly Graham, Senate candidate in Iowa, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for watching The Damage Report. What if you could protect yourself on the internet for the price of a cup of coffee a month? Well, if you head to nordvpn.com/TYT, you'll be able to connect up to 6 devices to NordVPN's military-grade encryption for $349 a month. If you go now, they'll even throw in a month for free. Go now.